To the cloud. All right. So thank you guys for being here. I know this is kind of a random time during the week for practical nervous system support. This is not really, this isn't really my normal like scope. I specialize in healing from people pleasing through somatics, and a lot of my normal monthly workshops are under that umbrella, but I feel like part of that, Daisy, what do you? I feel like part of that um, process of healing from people pleasing is giving your body really practical support um, that that regulates you, that increases your capacity. I've done like full workshops on pleasure, which is a great way to resource your body and build your body's capacity, because ultimately when we're healing from people pleasing, when we're establishing boundaries, when we're speaking our needs, all of that inevitably causes stress to the nervous system. It's something new that we're doing. It might feel really unsafe. And so the best thing that you can do is to really just set yourself up for success, fill up your cup, and give yourself the most grounded body that you can like live in as possible. And that depends on the day. We'll go over that, especially when it comes to people with periods and that are on hormonal cycles that are on a monthly cycle instead of a daily cycle. And that changes each day, but really just how can you support your body in the best way possible so that you feel the best and you can do what you need for yourself, whether that be setting boundaries or just enjoying your day. So let's take a moment to ground. Go ahead and take a look around your space and just notice how your space lands in your nervous system. Also notice the temperature. I just turned the heater on, my space is very cold. When my space is cold, my body clenches up. And just notice if you're experiencing that as well. I've been doing a group program with some people in Europe, in the Netherlands, some really cold places, and they've echoed this feeling of kind of tension that happens in the body when it's cold. So just noticing how the body feels and fully allowing your presence to arrive, not changing or altering in any way, but just allowing your presence to arrive, looking around your space, maybe over the right shoulder, back to center over the left shoulder, and back to center. And then maybe orienting your awareness now in towards your body. Noticing anything that's happening in your body, any pains, tension, any places that feel good, open, soft, or just good enough. And start to notice a part of the body that feels good, soft, warm, pleasant, or good enough. Maybe bringing your hands over that part of the body. A lot of times the feet and ankles are very neutral feeling for most people. So connecting to a part of the body that feels grounded. And imagine as you inhale, inhaling into this part of the body. Easy, audible exhales. Inhaling, filling up into this part of the body. Audible exhales. A few more times, inhaling, sending the breath to this part of the body. Audible exhale. And then when you're ready, starting to orient back into your space. Opening the eyes, looking around over the right shoulder and then over the left shoulder. And then coming back to the screen and feeling into this like Zoom container that we have. And noticing how that lands in your body as well. All right. So if you have any questions as I move through today, go ahead and write them down. And then at the end, I'll answer all of them in the Q&A portion. So this is what you can expect from, you guys can all make sure that you're just on mute too. This is what you can expect from this next hour. So we'll be doing a nervous system 101. So very like breaking down the basics of the nervous system, how it functions, what it is, what are the systems that are in place. And I'm sorry, I keep looking away. Daisy, they're doing construction next door to me today. And Daisy has a very sensitive nervous system like me. And so she's been chewing things because she doesn't like the sound and the vibration. So if you see me looking away, making sure she's not chomping down on any important words. So back to the nervous system, we'll be breaking down the nervous system. And then I had an interesting time like planning this workshop because there's so many things that affect the nervous system, and some of them are within my scope and some of them aren't. And so this is really just like a giant overarching everything that you could need when it comes to your nervous system. Circadian rhythm, we're going to talk about how your sleep and just your hormone levels around your circadian rhythm affect your nervous system and how you can support it, how your diet affects your nervous system and how you can support it, your hormone cycle, pleasure, community, nature, and then some miscellaneous things at the end. And then we'll finish with Q&A. So all right, so nervous system 101, if you're familiar with the nervous system or you have a background in somatics or psychology, this may be a review for you. I always put it through a very somatic lens, so it might be different from what you've heard before. So the nervous system is basically split into two parts. And just to be very clear, this is all conceptual. So these are functions that we can't really see. Like when I have these diagrams, we're making something that's very abstract into something concrete enough for us to understand. So it's not as simplified as this, but this is just so that we can understand something that is very, very abstract. So the nervous system is essentially split into two parts. So we have the parasympathetic. So that's our rest and digest. So that's, I see this a lot at the end of a yoga session with a client. When they're in Shavasana, you know, the final posture where you're lying down, it's called corpse pose. It's super restorative and restful. I'll hear their stomach kind of like gurgle. And that is the rest and digest. So the body is feeling safe. The heart rate slows down. The body relaxes. The digestive system stimulates activity. And it's just really this more restorative, calm experience for the body. Whereas the sympathetic is known as the fight or flight. So in the sympathetic, essentially the body is preparing to mobilize, it's preparing to move. The heart rate increases. Your hands might get sweaty, your sweat glands start to produce more sweat. The digestive system temporarily decreases activity, and this is because if you are experiencing any kind of threat or anything where you're having to mobilize and move, so maybe throw punches or run away or do something that's going to require a sympathetic explosion of energy, the least important thing in that moment is your digestive system activity. So for temporary moment, the digestive system, the energy gets reallocated from the digestive system to other parts of the body, like your arms, legs, like I said, parts that are ready to mobilize. You start producing adrenaline, and then you also might feel a need to go to the bathroom and urinate. I know before I used to play recreational soccer, and before they would do the whistle, like I would always be like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna pee my pants because I was so nervous and I was so in my sympathetic. And I was like, I'm gonna pee my pants. And I think that the parasympathetic is better understood when compared to the sympathetic. So if the sympathetic is the body, is a state of arousal, of hyperarousal, where the body is ready to mobilize, it's ready to move. The parasympathetic is basically the body saying, okay, right now I'm safe. And then that's why the digestive system starts to come back online. People that are chronically experiencing sympathetic activation, a lot of people with chronic sympathetic activation say that they experience digestive issues, IBS. This is partly why. One last note before we move to the next slide. I'm going to have a breath and a sip of water because I get really excited about this and I start. So, one moment. Okay. One last note on this is that this is not black and white. So this chart is very binary. It's very red and blue, sympathetic, parasympathetic. This is actually a scale. It's a spectrum. So very rarely are we in one or the other. It's a scale and you can move along the scale. When we're working out, when we are having sex, when we're in any kind of state of arousal, if I'm like watching, I love Marvel movies. If I'm watching a Marvel movie and my heart is racing, I'm in a sympathetic state. A lot of times sympathetic fight or flight is kind of demonized. Like you don't want to state, you don't want to be in this state. But it's not just a fight or flight state. It's not just like a traumatized state. It's also when you're working out, when I'm cleaning the house, rage cleaning, hello. When you are like having a difficult conversation, right now I'm somewhat in sympathetic because I'm talking, my heart's beating, I'm like, staying focused. We just don't want to get stuck here. And that's really, I just made a video about this on social media, but the idea with nervous system regulation is not that we want to always be calm. That's not the point, is to constantly be feeling like Zen, Buddha, like nothing bothers you. That's not really it's not really probable, like considering that we are humans, we live in mammalian bodies, and we are experiencing life, we're still alive. So every now and then we'll be experiencing something that's stressful. And so the idea isn't to never be dysregulated. The idea is really just to support your body in moving through these states and then coming back to the green zone. So it's less about constantly being regulated and more about nervous system mobility. So, for example, we have polyvagal theory right here. Once again, another chart to describe a very abstract concept. Not as clear-cut as this, but for the sake of clarity. We have social engagement, known as ventral vagal, where we're curious, grounded, open, mindful, safe. We have fight or flight, which would be the red part of the sympathetic nervous system, when we are moving into a charge, activation, arousal. And then we move into freeze, and this is more of a shutdown state. There's different theories that there's sympathetic freeze and parasympathetic freeze. We're not really going to go too much into that today. But all of these are normal, all of these are beautiful, all of these serve a purpose, and we just don't want to get stuck. Like we don't want to get stuck in freeze, we don't want to get stuck in fight or flight. We want to have a mobility where we can move into hyperarousal and then support the body in coming back into ventral vagal. All right. So, the first part, or part two, I guess, is circadian rhythm. So we have our, I just want to make sure I'm recording, but I'm pretty sure I am. So circadian rhythm is our body's hormones around our sleep cycle. Um, Perfect world, I know like when I'm camping, and you're very much exposed to outside light, you rise with the sun and sleep with the sun. So when the sun goes down, our body starts producing melatonin, which makes us sleepy. However, now our circadian rhythm is like fucked up because of screens, and I'm like so guilty of this. Um, because it produces blue light, it kind of messes us up. Um, and so there's things that you can do to support your circadian rhythm in moving as it's supposed to. Like for example, when I'll talk about cortisol in a moment, but we want our cortisol levels to be lower in the evening. So cortisol is the stress hormone, and higher in the morning, but not too high. So there's this balancing act that happens, and there's things that you can do to support your sleep hormones and your wake up morning hormones in being this perfect morning and evening cocktail amount. So um, in the evening, red light is better than blue light. So red light mimics the light of a fire. So I actually have all my bulbs changed to color changing lights. They come with a little remote, and in the evening, I change it to red or orange light. And then I also have a salt lamp next to my bed. Blue light is not only screen light, so any light that comes from your screen is blue light. There's also white light from fluorescence. So you've probably like experienced this if you wake up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom and you turn on the light and it's a fluorescent light and you're like, good Lord. Um, Not ideal. That disrupts our sleep hormones um and our circadian rhythm. So if you can like move towards red light or orange light, that's great. Um, all of this, it can be done imperfectly and still really support your body. Number two is limit screen time. Like I said, like I feel like everybody knows this. Blue light really disrupts your circadian rhythm. If you can even just 5, 20, 30 minutes before bed, put your phone down and um, like read a book or draw or do anything, just even like 10 minutes before you sleep. Anything that's doable for you. That's great. Like reading a fiction book, I'll talk about later why fiction is the way to go. Avoid activating media. So like I said, I'm a huge Marvel fan. I can't really watch Marvel in the evening if I want to sleep good that night because my heart is pounding, my palms are sweating. This is another reason why like somatics is great in general for um just general life. Like how does your body respond to different kinds of media? Um, like I was talking to my partner about this last night, and like now I get the Hallmark movies because they're so easy on your nervous system, and it's like that's so much better than watching a Marvel movie before bed. So avoiding activating media. Um, if you're able to make your room as dark as possible, this is really good for your circadian rhythm because light, um, any kind of outside light like fluorescence. It mimics the sun, and so it disturbs your sleep cycle. If you aren't able to have a dark room, a sleep mask is really great, like a satin sleep mask. You can get them from Amazon. And then also, this is so extra, but a weighted blanket. There's a lot of research about like how weighted blankets help with anxiety. They help your body produce melatonin. I have one and I really, really like it. And I'm definitely someone that struggled with insomnia over the years, so weighted blankets are the way to go. All right. So we had a great night's sleep, which is so important for your nervous system. And then in the morning, the idea, so first of all, your body wakes up with cortisol. Cortisol is the stress hormone, and we need a certain amount of it in the morning to wake us up, but we don't want too much of it. So if you're waking up feeling nauseous or like, oh my gosh, I could not eat right now because I feel nauseous, that's a sign that your cortisol levels are high in the morning. So we want to keep our cortisol levels low and gently support our body in waking up. So to do this, you can open your curtains and get sun, even if it's cloudy, just looking outside. If you're able to actually go outside and get sun on your skin for, I think it's like 10 to 15 minutes, do that. Stay off your phone. I know that's so annoying. Like, I hate when people say this. I'm like, oh, would I want to get on my phone? It's such an information overload. You never know like what you're gonna see, what kind of emails you're gonna have. And then on top of that, there's just so many different nervous system states because we co-regulate to other people, right? So if I'm watching a video of someone really calm and relaxed, no, no, Daisy, do not. Okay. Um, if someone's really calm and relaxed, I'm gonna feel calm and relaxed. If someone's, crying and sobbing, I can co-regulate to that as well, or co-dysregulate to that. And so you just never know what you're gonna see. And regardless, the internet is just so packed with information, it can feel dysregulating for our body to have access to that much information in the morning. So this is from someone who has no self-control. So charge your phone in a different room. Do not have it in the same room as your as where you sleep. I'll like sometimes like hide it for myself. I'll put it on do not disturb so that I get the information when I'm ready. And then just go as long as you can. If it's 20 minutes, great. If it's an hour, great. I know like not everyone can stay off their phone for an hour each morning. But just as long as you can, delay it, do that. And set yourself up for success. So like if you know you wake up and you roll over and you get on your phone, maybe like put a journal there instead or a book or something if you want some kind of stimulation, just not as intense. Number two, sorry. Daisy is tooting right now. I'm sorry, I could not hide that face. Number three is drink water with salt in it. So it's really important to hydrate right when you wake up. Make sure to add some minerals to your water in the form of salt. That helps it actually hydrate you instead of just kind of running through you. Eat breakfast within 1 hour of waking up. This one's hard for me because I'm one of those people that commonly wakes up not wanting to eat. But if you can eat breakfast within 1 hour, anything's better than nothing. But carbs, fat, and protein are like the perfect combination. If you can't do carbs, fat, and protein, just protein is the way to go. Listen to relaxing music that supports your body and gently opening to the day. And then this one's kind of a bonus, but lymphatic drainage. I really love doing lymphatic drainage. It's a great alternative for me than like going on my phone. So I'll spend like 20 minutes doing a lymphatic drainage massage. And then that's 20 minutes that I haven't spent on my phone in the morning. It's also really good for your nervous system and your immunity. I'm not going to go too much into that, but if you have questions about that, you can send me a message after or send me an email and I'll give you some resources. All right. Part three is diet. Look at this cute little video of green beans that you gotta look out for the next however long it takes me to get through this slide. Okay, so how to support your nervous system with your diet. So your liver actually metabolizes your adrenaline. So when people say like, I don't have capacity for this, there's like a physical capacity that we're referring to. We can only metabolize so much adrenaline at once. And legumes and beans actually help to clear excess adrenaline out of your body. It's really phenomenal. Don't go too crazy with the beans at first. I'll tell you from experience, like slowly add them into your diet. Um, but this is really the diet part in general. It's not really my specialty. I would totally recommend Holistic Life Navigation on Instagram. He talks a lot about the power of beans and the power of having a diet to actually support your body in trauma healing and support your body in metabolizing adrenaline and detoxing from excess adrenaline. So I would definitely recommend checking him out. He's a somatic therapist and a nutritionist, and he combines the two, so it's just really phenomenal. Caffeine and sugar. Like, sugar is my drug of choice. I love sugar. It is activating, it gives me energy, and it tastes good. So caffeine and sugar can be very dysregulating for this reason. They kind of, like, going back to that first slide, they move us into the sympathetic. They can also encourage our body to move past our body's capacity. So, for example, in the afternoon, if I'm feeling low energy and my body is asking for rest, I might just eat sugar or drink caffeine, and in that way, I'm bypassing my body's capacity. So, um, that's another that's another thing that Holistic Life Navigation talks a lot about in his content. So I would recommend, if this is something that resonates with you, checking him out. Okay, so this is for people with a period. If you menstruate. There it is. Okay. So our menstrual cycle really affects our hormones. And I've noticed that it can really affect our body's capacity for stress. So, if you're not familiar with the menstrual cycle, we have our menstrual. Daisy, what? I think Daisy wants to lead the workshop today. Normally she just naps all the time, but she's like getting in trouble today. So we have our menstrual phase, which is like our body's winter. So it's a time when that's when we're physically bleeding. We have lower energy. We might feel a little more reclusive. It's when our progesterone is higher, so we might actually feel really calm, clear. It depends on the person. Some people experience anxiety. And then we have our follicular phase, which is after our period. And that's our body's inner spring. So we start to get our energy back. This is when people say they normally feel like the most normal. They have like good, steady energy. Ovulatory phase is when we're fertile. Then we have a lot of energy. What I've noticed for myself is my capacity is a lot more. Like, I can deal with a lot more stress. I can deal with a lot more BS when I'm in my ovulatory phase. And then luteal phase is before you menstruate. This is when a lot of people experience PMS symptoms. In my luteal phase, I know that I have the least amount of capacity. It's when I experience a lot of anxiety. This is what a lot of people say, cramps, etc. What I recommend is that if you are a person with a period, is to track your cycle, and follow Consciously Kate. She's on social media and she specializes in cycle syncing. And cycle syncing is essentially this idea that we can do certain movement practices, eat certain things, or plan our calendars to the best of our ability around our menstrual cycle. Like, for example, when I'm ovulating, I'll like make a bunch of plans for when I'm in my luteal phase. And then when my luteal phase happens, I'm like, oh, why did I do that? And so in that way, you can support your body in its current capacity, which changes if you are someone that has a period. It will change in these 4 phases. Getting familiar with your own body cycle and how that manifests for you is really important. And yeah. This is really good. And I think also this is one of those things where um there's certain things about our body and our capacity that we can control, like going to bed and getting enough sleep and what we put in our body. And there's certain things that we can't control. And this is something that we can't control. It's just our hormones that are flowing on their own with us or without us. But what you can do is have an awareness. Like, for example, in my luteal phase, I feel a lot of anxiety. I'm like, oh my goodness, what's going on? And then just knowing that I'm okay, this is my luteal phase. I have lower capacity. How can I support my body in resting and self care? Is really validating and really helpful in the long term and the short term. All right. Pleasure is my favorite. Okay. So, how you can support your nervous system with pleasure. So, the thing about trauma healing, um, which is wonderful, we love trauma healing, yay, roses, roses, is that it orients us towards pain. So we're constantly, whether it's in therapy or somatic therapy or reading books, we're constantly orienting towards our pain. And we're also constantly orienting towards what you can fix about yourself. And this can feel very dysregulating for the nervous system. I used to chronically, constantly like listen to audiobooks and podcasts about these things just constantly. And I noticed it was actually like giving me more anxiety to be constantly listening to things talking about childhood trauma and all these things. And it's actually dysregulating. It's stressful on the nervous system. And that's why with my work, I understand it's something that puts stress on your nervous system. And I always couple my work, like in every single program I do, like I always couple it with resourcing with pleasure because you need that. You can't do one without the other. So that's a huge thing. And that's why I'm skipping to the last point, but that's why I also recommend fiction instead of self-help. I'm someone that like exclusively read self-help books for years. And then first of all, it gets kind of boring after a while. And then also it's like, how much, how much of that do you want to do in your day? You know? At some point you gotta just enjoy yourself or um, go away to a faraway land or read something that genuinely feels nourishing to your body, your soul, your nervous system, and not something that's just constantly telling you how you can be better or how you can fix yourself. So that's why, especially before bed, reading fiction, non-activating fiction. Okay, I read, I'm so into Agatha Christie, like the murder mystery books. I don't recommend those. My heart would be beating before going to bed, like pounding. Um, so something that's non-activating fiction, like romance is really nice, whatever that is for you, um, to support your body and just softening. Um, Number two is releasing the need for false urgency. So obviously, we exist in a world with calendars and deadlines and all of these things where we need genuine deadlines. We need to meet genuine deadlines, whether it's a meeting or whatever. But a lot of our urgency is false urgency, and I'm a huge fan of false urgency. It makes me feel so important. It makes me feel so needed, but it's so not good for your nervous system. So where can you release the need for false urgency, even in the smallest little amount, whether it's like eating your food or taking a walk or whatever it is, like what little ways in your daily life can you release the need for false urgency? Number three is to audibly sigh and breathe. So, example A, when we are feeling really tense, we might hold our breath. There's something that happens where we hold our breath and our viscera gets tense, like our organs, our tissues get all tense, and we kind of clench. There's a clenching. That's part of the like the sympathetic charge. There's a clenching that happens, and we want to allow ourselves to soften when we're safe and we're around safe people. And a way to do that is to just allow yourself to take up space through your breath, whether it's like just taking a just allowing yourself to sigh, to breathe. Um, yeah, it's beautiful. And it also starts to allow other people a little window into your emotional state without needing to fix it. So, like if I'm frustrated and I'm with my partner and he might be like, "What? What's going on? What's wrong?" Like, just breathing, just breathing. And it allows people, especially if you are healing from people pleasing or you're a recovering people pleaser like myself, you may have spent many times of your life saying, "No, no, no, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. It's all good," but it's not all good. And so when you allow yourself to sigh and breathe, you're allowing the people around you to know like what your body is experiencing, and then also not need to fix it. And that's, I think, a really wonderful thing to allow people to do. Speaking of people, how to support your nervous system with community. So we are we are communal creatures, human beings are. Self isolation doesn't do us much good when it's chronic. Um, we need not just connections, but authentic connections. It's really important for our nervous system. If you're familiar with the blue zones are these little pockets of the world where people live to be like in their hundreds, and they're healthy and they're happy. And a very common thread in all of the blue zones is that they are very connected with community. And so that's something that's really important as well. And not just community for community's sake, but authentic, genuine community where you feel supported and safe. People, I used to talk about this a lot a few years ago, and people would always ask me, like, how do I meet people? Especially after COVID, like things are kind of different now, you know? I met a lot of great people through meetup.com. It's like a group, it's basically like a community site where people with different interests host meetups. They have sports ones, like for soccer, for badminton, for everything. They have yoga ones. I speak French, and so I did like a French language meetup where a bunch of people that spoke French hung out. And whatever your interests are, I guarantee there's a meetup for that. And it's really cool to meet people. And honestly, I think this is like under appreciated nowadays, but having acquaintances is like really important. Not every single person has to be your best friend, especially if you're a recovering people pleaser. We're like very used to being enmeshed in our relationships, and like being super close to everybody, and having acquaintances is like such a beautiful thing and really great for recovering people pleasers to practice having acquaintances. I'm sorry, I don't know why my computer keeps doing this. Okay. Oh, hello. Okay. Uh, okay. Um, so meetup.com is great. And then also just build your own community. So, at a certain point a few years ago, I felt like I didn't have a lot of community. So me and my partner, we started inviting people to play volleyball with us on Sundays at the beach. And we'd bring the net, we'd bring the ball, and we'd just invite people, and they'd invite their friends. And we'd meet people at the beach, and it just became this really beautiful ritual. So, like, you're the master of your own community. That sounds kind of weird. You can build your own community. You're the master of your own destiny. And yes. All right, miscellaneous. So here's a few other ways to support your nervous system, equally important as everything else. Different kinds of breath work. So there's so many different kinds of breath work you can do. I have a lot on my YouTube channel. There's ways to upregulate your nervous system into the sympathetic and actually help build its capacity to handle stress. There's ones that downregulate your nervous system into the parasympathetic, the rest and digest. Um, I have all of those on my YouTube channel. The 4-7-8 breath is a great one for down regulation. It's inhale count of 4, hold count of 7, exhale count of 8. Movement, I could have done a whole section on exercise and movement, but movement that you find genuine pleasure in, whether it's dance or yoga or weightlifting or running or whatever it is that you find genuine pleasure in, is so important. The VU practice is my favorite. This one's from Somatic Experiencing. It's inhaling through the nose and then exhaling VU to the end of the breath. Chanting and singing, all of that stimulates the branches of the vagus nerve, which helps to regulate your nervous system and build vagal tone, so it makes your nervous system more resilient. Microdosing medicinal mushrooms has been super healing for me, especially when it comes to like healing from CPTSD. There's a way to do it, and it's also really hard to find good ones, but I just found this amazing. This is their Instagram if you're curious about learning more about microdosing. It's at mushmore_mental health, and they sell microdosing mushrooms, and it's legitimate and they're just amazing. And then finally, nature. We have zoochosis. So zoochosis is what happens when they put wild animals in the zoo and they get depressed and they like go in circles, or they do like really weird behaviors where they'll like dig a hole, or just like really bizarre depressed behaviors. We are those animals. We've built our own enclosure and we're living in it now. And that's okay. Like the world is what it is. I'm really grateful to have a heater and a house. I like could not handle Survivor. Like I no. And also it creates like it makes us need to replicate the natural rhythm of nature in other ways by going outside, like spending time in nature. We have to be intentional about that now, like mimicking the light of fire, mimicking a tribe that we used to have many years ago um, with our community. So spending time in nature, your body co-regulates to nature, whether it's like a tree or a river or whatever it is. So spending as much time in nature as possible is really important. And okay, part 8 is magic. So this is just a plug for my upcoming retreat. So I'm hosting a retreat in Three Rivers, California called Journey to Paradise Retreat. It's at this beautiful retreat center in it's right near the Sequoias. It's like I think 52 acres, and there's a river on site. It's just absolutely gorgeous. It's like just being there is extremely regulating because you're so immersed in nature, and it's glamping. So the accommodation options, there's a glamping tent. This is the bed. It's super luxurious, but you're also super in tune with nature because you're spending most of your time outside. When I'm there, I sleep so good because and I wake up with the sun like 5 a.m. feeling refreshed because you're going to bed at like 9 because the sun sets around that time. And then the other option is these glass houses, and they're mirrored glass. So this is what they look like from the outside. And you're still completely immersed in nature. You have the skylight, you wake up to natural light. There's like private cedar hot tub. It's absolutely incredible. This is in June 19th through the 23rd. We have one tent left and we have 2 houses left, so we're almost sold out. If you're interested, you can send me an email, or I'll send a follow-up email after this with links, but it's going to be absolutely stunning. So, now we have about 10 minutes for Q&A. So, option to come off of mute, option to come off of, you can start your video or you can put it in the chat. Oh. One last thing I'll say while you guys are formulating your questions is that there's biological things that we can do to support our bodies, like around our circadian rhythm, around our cycles, food. And then there's things that are particular to you. So, like things that you find regulating and you find resourcing. For me, it's like going to the beach and lying in the sand or cuddling with my dog, and discovering what works for you is really helpful because it's not just, something that some random person on Instagram is telling you to do. It's something that works for you and your body. And if you'd like to remain anonymous, you can send me a direct message in the chat. Okay, great question, Stephanie. I've been hearing a lot of earthing mats. Do you have thoughts on these? Yes, that's a great question. I was actually just talking to a friend about this because she went to a osteopath, I think some kind of body worker, and they were recommending a like $3,000 electromagnetic earthing mat to her, and she was like, I don't know about this. The thing about the electromagnetic earthing mats, and there's like shoes and everything like that, if you can get that for free by going outside and walking on the ground barefoot or lying on the ground. For where I live, I'm in Southern California. So for me, like a ground free of snow is always available. It might be a little cold, but I I'm always able to go outside and lay on the ground. So for me, it wouldn't make sense to buy a mat like that. However, if you're someone where it's like very snowy or it doesn't make sense. I have a friend in Canada that uses a mat like that, which I feel like is more appropriate because I don't I don't know. I haven't been to Canada, but I've heard it gets really cold and really snowy, and I feel like in those situations it might be more appropriate, but the whole idea is that it's mimicking the earth, and that's what a lot of these devices are doing. Like I have a gradual alarm clock that wakes me up with gradual light and the sounds of birds slowly getting louder. I mostly use that in the dead of winter because otherwise I just sleep with my blinds open and the light comes in that way. So a lot of these like fancy devices we have, we're just kind of mimicking like the earth. We're trying to get back, got to get back to the tribal times. Um, so yeah. Lymphatic drainage. So lymphatic drainage, we have our lymphatic system. So our lymphatic system, it's um just it's very superficial to the top of the skin. So it's like right under the our skin. Lymph is like this clear, I'm gonna actually lymph, it's whoops. I just put it in the chat. So lymph is this clear liquid and it moves throughout our body, and it's very connected to our immune system. And what lymph does is it kind of clears out certain things in our body, like um, for example, like I have a cyst in my neck, and the idea is that like if you have good lymph flow, the lymph doesn't get stuck, and it helps your immune system, and it also helps to potentially reduce like growths that can happen because it's this like thing that clears things out. Um, but you have to move it manually. So it's like all of the other systems of our body go function without us. The lymph system, you have to move it manually. So that can look like moving, just like exercise, massage, and then another popular way is dry brush. So dry brushing, and I do dry brushing, and I also do manual massage, like especially around my face. Like I said, I have a growth on my thyroid, so it helps with that. Um, and it helps to also regulate your nervous system. So the lymphatic system is a really interesting system of the body. It's not something I'm really specialize in, but it's a very like interesting system. Do you have an app that does this with sunrise times too? What do you mean, Stephanie?
Do you mind if I just talk?
Yes,
Because
please.
chatting is really hard on a phone. So I've been looking for an app. I know you can get ones that gradually light up and the birds, but is there ones that you found that you can set to a time of the sunrise as well? Or have you not found anything like that?
Um, like that sets automatically to the sunrise time.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, not that I know of. I mean, maybe you can make one like that. It sounds like an interesting market idea, or product idea. But not that I know of. The one that I have, you set it manually. But that sounds very cool. It's possible there, like I got like one on Amazon, probably one of the cheaper ones, but there's some that are very decked out with features and connected to an app on the phone. So I would imagine that those ones would have more features.
I do have a few more questions if you don't mind me just staying on,
Oh
if
yeah,
people don't mind.
please.
So give me a second, they're gone. That happens a lot with me. Give me a second, they will come back.
No worries. I know. I have to write everything down because I'll forget it in 5 seconds.
That's it. It's about the diet and the yeah, your comments about the diet, because that was quite interesting to hear about salt water in the morning. I've heard about lemon water. Would you recommend salt and lemon or not lemon, or yeah, that kind of thing?
Yeah, honestly, I'm not super familiar with the nutritional side of all this. Regards to lemon water, like I've heard so many conflicting things because I mean, you've probably seen it too. Like I've seen people saying, "Oh, add lemon water because it makes the water alkaline or it makes it acidic, and then once it's in your body, it's alkaline, and you want to have high alkaline diet." And then I've seen people saying, no, don't drink lemon water. It's too acidic for your stomach in the morning. So, I don't know. I honestly don't know. I would say like whatever feels best for you. I feel like our bodies are very intuitive. I used to drink lemon water a lot in the morning. Um, I think it was a little too acidic for my stomach personally. I seem to like room temperature water with salt. But if it gets you to drink your water, then you know, to each their own.
And one more question, about the eating an hour after, within the hour of waking up as well. Um, I just want your thoughts on that because I do intermittent fasting. So eating in the morning is just not for me. I've never done it. And even as a kid, I never ate in the morning. So it's interesting. Can I just have a bit more of your thoughts on that?
Yeah, definitely. So I actually learned that from Dana Dawsey. She's a nervous system expert, and I'll have her next week on the podcast and I'll ask her to expand on that as well. But basically the reasoning behind that is that it helps to stabilize your nervous system, or sorry, your blood sugar. It helps to stabilize your blood sugar throughout the day. So if you're eating something that has fats, proteins, and carbs, it'll burn long throughout the day. And so that way, for example, if I'm like eating something sugary in the morning, my blood sugar like spikes and then it crashes. And then the whole day after that, I'm kind of trying to maintain it or catch up to it. I mean, you know how it is when you eat something sugary, it like spikes and then it goes down and then you're like really low energy and you get another spike. So I think the idea behind that is to help stabilize your blood sugar, like start it off with something stable. I have a lot of friends that do intermittent fasting in the morning and they say it works for them too. I feel like ultimately, whatever works for your body, like you know your body best. And if you feel really good fasting in the morning, then that's what works for you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Is there any other questions before we log off? We can do one more. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me and a recording of this. Thank you, Riz. A recording of this will be on YouTube and on the Your Own Medicine podcast after. And thank you guys all so much for showing up live and being here. And I hope you have a wonderful and calm or nervous system mobile rest of your day. And yeah, thank you so much, you guys. I'm going to stop my share and end the session. Take care.